It's me for Bonohene the program as na eba. Nam nam kwa meba. Nam te se obi di ka etwam na obo nwom se. Onyame be ma ne man taban na ye de tu fa. We enya ntaban ene nyame de ma nipa. But at this moment containers etime nya ntaban etu afri Ghana ha ekọ ama abo man ni nyina pusa. But Bonohene ebusa the energy minister John Jinapor say container 1,328 containers na efu ntaban etu ayira no ehemfa ana container no akodi aha Penyah block media mesro say any dey mo oba like video no that roma oba subscribe button so na be click be notification icon for latest updates na be kire wadwe da ma me e wo comment mesro say oba so a no share video ma onu aso enya bi ahwe etema history kakra yabaka to be we 7 December 2024 MPP government elusi ema NDC eteki over omorene enti after that and a transition process started in the course of the transition process now. John Jinapor na obeye newly appointed energy minister and obeje baton efri na po ensem eko parliament eko kan say oh in the course of the transition no omo have visited Tema port or omo koye no in fact na MPP government akla containers ECG containers ya containing cables and new meters any ade up to 3,000.
When we took over, I visited the Tema harbor. Mr. Speaker, we have about 3,000 containers stuck at the Tema harbor. 3,000 containers, most of which contains transformers. Today, as we speak, Mr. Speaker, ECG has a total liability of 13 billion from suppliers. Demurrage alone, because the transformers have been sitting there, by the end of 2024, demurrage 1.5 billion. Ministry of Energy alone, 6 billion worth of contracts were awarded without commencement certificates. In 2024, their total budget was not up to 2 billion, and yet supplies alone 9.7 billion in 2024. These are facts, Mr. Speaker, and I stand at the dispatch box. I'm obliged to provide facts. And so I agree with you. And so we've set up a committee to investigate these procurement anomalies and breaches. Mr. Speaker, some of the equipment ECG has procured, it will last them 10 years. 10 years. And yet some of the equipment will expire in 5 years. So they've procured equipment that will last them 10 years, but in 5 years, some of those equipment would expire. And so, Mr. Speaker, we've had to take some drastic measures to deal with some of this.
Even Hakra no honorable men no asem kakra because ona obeye new energy minister transition air course work ho eco supervise went menya accurate figure na na mko dey went man kai ehunu se container na ebosi pi but obeka say it was about 3,000 enti omu kai ne say went me adan ordinary na kohwe nzo ki container mo hidi ebi amedimani bu a ebit me 3,000 sa no fa no ana say yes because on the floor parliament no went man kan see possible yes but can say it was about 3,000. That's it. Ghana for you booking it down. You try to one 2 months. You don't want to akonya so. I appointed as energy minister. And on Saturday, come on to say, oh, container na MPP government. Eklaba, say it was about 3,000. Now the Omo across check IBBA now no. Of course, you know more Kai Bibiano. And yet 2,500 containers.
No, these are not empty containers. Yesterday, when we visited the port, these are containers loaded with materials, cables, and other accessories. ECG has not been able to clear those containers. And so as we speak, we have 2,500 containers stuck there and stranded. And as they stay there, it attracts a lot of penalties and demurrage. And yesterday, the briefing I got is that so far, the demurrage alone is estimated at 1.5 billion. See, this is unacceptable. 1.5 billion cedis. This is unacceptable. The first question is that what led to this
untenable situation. Why would ECG adopt that bundle? But what is even disturbing is that the briefing I got there is that people are stealing the containers. People are buying the containers at knockdown prices. A container that cost about $500,000, people are able to buy it at 100,000 cedi and bring it into the open market and sell to the same contractors. We cannot allow this. And let me be fair and let me be straight. We would not allow this. There are so many procurement issues with ECG. And so we've set up that committee to investigate all their procurement issues from IT, logistics, transport, ordinary material procurement. And then when the committee brings their findings, we will determine the way forward.
Honorable, how long has this containers been sitting?
It will not confirm it, say MPP government handed 2,500 containers at port to him as energy minister. I will not be doing what dance say container near who said what Tema port. I be ain't no now no omo Eric is on back clear container and I said be to me about many now. Abe boy yenam ahwade ensen semono. Afi yenke bi shabusia. 2 days ago and the media information that is pop up. Ah ni nyina ne say containers 2,500 now. Honorable John Jinapor, Minister for Energy, everything one done say now container in fact wako wajia to me say 2,500 Tema port no container no emu 1,300 plus container na funtaban etu ayela energy minister kro energy report na ebai
2,491 containers. ECG itself presents as containers held at the port. 1,328 cannot be accounted for. That is very serious and that's very alarming. And I assure you, we would conduct a detailed investigation into this matter. And somebody or some people will be held liable for this. 1,328 containers cannot just vanish into thin air. Somebody must be held liable for this. And I assure you that we would hold people liable for this. And whatever it takes, we'll work with the Attorney General, we'll work with the police, and ensure that whichever group, whatever people are responsible for this, are brought to book. And that we retrieve either the containers or the monetary equivalent of these containers. And that I assure you that this ministry would pursue this to its logical conclusion. We've also decided that we would move the rest of the containers into a secured warehouse. And let me thank the National Security Coordinator in his office for assisting us so far. They've taken delivery of some of these containers. I've written to National Security to provide us with 24-hour security. We have a detailed catalog or inventory of all these containers, their serial numbers, and everything, and put it in a system where the Minister, ECG, National Security, and if the presidency is interested, everybody will monitor these containers. We'd also have to change the procurement processes at ECG. It can't be business as usual, and I can assure you that we intend to take some swift, far-reaching measures to ensure that the right thing is done. We are not targeting anybody. We have no particular person in sight, but whoever is superintendent over this, especially the former managing directors, they will be held liable, and they have to answer for their stewardship, and that is the essence of public office. Today, as I speak to you, Talo has shut down their pipeline because of accumulated legacy debt. And I've had to go and see the Minister of Finance to use the taxpayers' money to find a solution to this challenge. If we do not resolve that immediately, it means that we cannot deliver power. And so ECG is critical. If we don't get ECG fixed, we'll continue to have serious challenges which will impact power delivery and even the delivery of petroleum products. And so as a ministry, we'll be taking some very tough, unpleasant, difficult decisions But we take those decisions in the overall interest of this country. We must fix the system. Other than that, the whole energy sector would collapse one day.
We are sparking a whole lot of conversation on the street. Container 1,328. Ayela. A full taban desire we have a biade. Container a full tabaya a tunam view and pictures a trendy. Container full tabay. Ayela. Nasa we no. Ana Bonohene on Assassin Radio. Also Debbie. John Jinapor to me can ask him no enter me. It will be Wisa John Jinapor say. Containers 2,500 now. What would you want to say? MPP are buying 80 jar no. I'll be who want contact Ghana for no. A year day in a 1,328 L2 container no Henefa.
I say I will pot. Hey, Nam Ghana, Yahoo Mobo. Hey, Yahoo Mobo Santa Wusie. And our what leaders in the brain cannot cry and trafua, contempo, akohifua, etumpine. No more better than Kunyasu. The Canada Hodo. And Titambiano, no crane ma, Uka e, Chanwaka B, Uka C, Chanwaka D.
Say, I am out the banner being pensa.
Nankabani saying that ECG containers. Afra brochira bedru Ghana port. Afia pe containers a srabam. Ya se containers ni bia yira. Etumpan. Na me de bia me kasa dum so ne ntimi nso anu a. Enye container yira na container anyira ye. Mum yan kan kire Ghana fo. Containers no cables. Any electrical equipment and a wumu. Container no amusi ayira no. We are Ghana near fast and figures by each container I have $500,000.
And a bed I don't know can you see.
Container Bakubiano, Nebo, the Omsi Agirano, I have $500,000. Hey, 1,300 containers. About $675,000.
And a bed I don't know can you see.
Sikabu Buruja. You bet me the Abia Free City High School. Of Anko, Pokiase Quine, you bet me the aye, etumpan. Senabaya Quine, Aya, Abuatia no, will be qua, will bet me a call about bet me aba. Sheniakasa. You see, Ira. Yakote committee. Sa committee no, and Transam so, na ye him. But you was sector minister, our energy minister, John Jinapor, you intimi me the questions.
Say I am out the banner being pensa.
Your basic questions are as you bisa the energy minister, John Jinapor. Because in somewhere John Jinapor I cannot sanatia in Sisuso. Sheniakasa. Mausa, what the statement about? Was say omoye transition no ye can transition a ebra na PPT akonya so omoko ye to baby 2024 ni ade handing over nose e sha ni nsem no omoka se containers e wo ho aye 3,000 but we wi a kire hu se enu 3,000 aye 2,500 and akwasi bro ni friend no blame game ya portion blame yamna tare no fa shisha amamfo ne enko. Sa committee report na ba bonte no yemfanya adwuma na akromfo ewo krom ha ebokro no mama yi nkọ nanim no yempa mo hontuma. But sector minister, the energy minister, John Jinapor samene nsiso papa, because on the floor of parliament akrabanko baby adru no yebebo tape. On the floor of parliament, John Jinapor as a sector minister, energy minister, bien no kaye. Sir, your containers are about 3,000. A kapot. ECG for entimi ye. Na yahwe ya somai yebeboka. Sheniakasa. Aba yi se ketreman pro. Muma yen kotie John Jinapor energy minister or call parliament in some of career efa sa ECG containers no obi na no ka say I visited there semina mente borofo kwasia woni hwe no dokora to ase onim sa ben hwenia kasa visit there minim sa wa ko enti sa wo visit ho there sani asam ne tia no sani akohu no wo be ka ne pepepe enti mi wo gidie se wa mese west also wo call ho no wa wo ko hu se ECG containers 3000 egu port ma yente ne niemra.
When we took over, I visited the Tema harbor. Mr. Speaker, we have about 3,000 containers stuck at the Tema harbor. 3,000 containers, most of which contains transformers. Today, as we speak, Mr. Speaker,
Etumpai Memajo Utie Energy Minister was say NDC take over. Now one call port one okohu say ECG for containers 3,000. Ewo ho wan kasa wobi na ka kire no. Wan kasa ECG for na kan ye etumpan. Wan kasa committee na wate no na kan ye wose wono a visit ye. Omayimra so dwafie a house of records. Jenia kasa. No this house am no kotudwa.
And my bed there no kan okulisi.
January.
And my bed there no kan okulisi.
Yawo March. Abusumi mienu entam was say na a 2,500 containers. And some 2,500 containers no omo koye emu be 1,300 omu hu bio. And the big question and the basic question ebisa say between January and March no why na coffee fast our containers in free ho etumpan yente the recently o kafa containers no
materials, cables, and other accessories. ECG has not been able to clear those containers. And so as we speak, we have 2,500 containers stuck there and stranded. And as they stay there, it attracts a lot of penalties and demurrage. And yesterday, the briefing I got is that so far, the demurrage alone is estimated at 1.5 billion. See, this is unacceptable. 1.5 billion cedis. This is unacceptable. The first question is that what led to this untenable situation? Why would ECG adopt that bundle? But what is even disturbing is that the briefing I got there is that
right. And so what here two voices no. One was your visit one at 3,000. Etumpai. See, I was working at 2,500. If we actually moved 1,000 over 1,300 a year. And a year for him. Was a tea committee, yes, a tea committee. That committee no, and you remove and for report to Mra. Professor Innocent, Senor Aqua Committee.
Say anya o te ban e bi ni mpansa.
Committee no about contain the betu just say containers ECG containers. And then the airport no a 2,491. 2,491 containers. But sector minister say okohu 2,500. Was university hono na 3,000. Jenia kasa. According to committee report no container aka 1,347. That means containers no na wo hono bebri ayira. You bomwa no krene dikai. Me masa bisade say enti why na catch energy minister John Jinapor. Dia wo kan ye no so no ane ne na no kretrodo sa kan ye say 3,000 containers are basic question. Class 1 4 questions no. At some no de call my email so fie e kan say 3,000 containers and a wo and as say there wo be ka say MPP for na catch and say during transition say 3,000 containers and a wo me kan na da ho do na sana tia the taxpayers money and a ditwa as sector minister energy minister etumpan Me mama meramu no me di ade me fa himfie.
Hwenia kasa.
Amamra mu no so obi wu no obi be di ade a abusua panyini wo kohwe no ma ye gya na daka mu. Anya sa nipa no wu wie ne aka chan so de okodi na de no wo gya kentedu ahenema du snap du osikori ye kohwe
Hwenia kasa.
so by extension say transition time no and MPP for catch now say ECG containers near 3,000 as sector minister wazumi office no okohwe
ana obe dia no ka no kuri si
and I was man no mo kinkan ye no ma hu kinkan no me catch now say they were 3,000 2,500 and otugu mu
Etumpan.
and a committee no so call ye no sa 2,500 no kra no mo report no enimu sa
Adwin kase so da ya adwin keto antiase.
committee report no say 2,491 and masra sector minister sa wasi ya be investigate ya wanyere no ho na omra out clear because then some na work kano me to me ensisi so
my been the whole clear man no man no hwe my been the whole I think that is
adwene ne ya juma
my been the whole clear man no hwe my been the whole I think that is
enti mon kantra John Jinapor energy minister sa the work kano and tasmu
Etumpan.
ya be investigate ya be hwemu a better but wonim bibia fa container no ho so a won kana ntum as sector minister no kasa dodo
107.3.
ba me ma mo twene ne bi me ba
eti Bonohene was want ase eti one Jinapor eda be sie ni wa be question no se bibia container no obia no omo make sure say o betimi I retrieve containers no na ebeba oman konkron Ghana emu ha na yetimi de aye de ye pese ye de ye obetima kire wadwene ama me e wo comment section aha Penyah Block Media.